you brought up a good point as far as making the intentional investment in the mental game. But do you think that's really it, or is it just parents and players being bombarded by what's all out there and having a hard time
Sorting through it
deciphering?
all.
Yeah.
Yeah. I personally feel like that's because being in the position I'm at with the Bombers, I talk to our 800 kids and our 1800 kids, and all these kids want to be these kids, and they don't necessarily know the roadmap, or they don't necessarily know, dad will go out and buy every cool thing he sees on the internet that's supposed to make his kid be the next kid that's going to commit to wherever, and it's tough, and so I think guidance is it's lacking in our sport, and I think. It's really cool. I mean, just like this show that you're doing now. It's probably, hopefully it answers a few questions for a few people out there that maybe are thinking about what should I be focusing on. And I think he'll certainly tell you, hey, I think place the middle side up towards near the top. Don't leave it on the bottom. And we talk about that a lot. But at the same time, I think you can't get away from the simple thing on the technical side is just work hard. You can keep it those two things pretty simple. And those are pretty simplistic approaches. But at the end of the day, the hardest workers usually get the most out of whatever they're putting into it. So, and then mix in some mental stuff, and you're in pretty good shape. So that's how I kind of approach it.
No, and one thing that it makes me think about, and this is, and a lot of people have thoughts. Here's what makes the Bombers special, and it's not about the Bombers, but here's what I feel like, because I've been asked over and over again, Scott and Carp, this Bombers thing, how's this going to work? Here's what's cool about it. Is we understand the term coaching staff, okay? And what that means is I have several people with several different expertises, several different passions, and all of them are valuable. And I think what happens, whether it's parents or even coaches, is ego kicks in. It's all got to be about me, or it's got to be one way. And the reality is there are several ways to get to the same goal. The cool thing about where we're at, and Scott and James and I, especially with our team specifically, 3 guys with 3 passions, with 3 different levels of expertise. But here's the kicker. Every single person that I've met within the Bombers has tremendous value, and they see the value in every other coach in the organization. That's not the same everywhere you go. And that's what's cool. And Scott, it'll sound fun, has no ego when it comes to success. He wants every single young lady that comes and plays for the Bombers to be successful, and he doesn't care where the credit goes. He doesn't care what book you read or who you listen to or who your hitting coach is. Let's just all be marching to the same goal, the same outcome. And that's to see these young ladies go on to be successful in their education, be successful in their families, be successful in society. And you've got to understand the concept of team, coaching staff, shortstop, second baseman, pitcher, catcher. We need all of you, and they all do different things.
Yeah, no doubt.
What are some of the top principles that you live by and you try to preach?
I better go first.
When you talk to your players about kind of pursuing this crazy idea of playing softball and doing it, throughout college, what are the 3 principles you try to teach?
It's a pretty deep question, but I think, I have a military background for me, so I know when I joined the military, I couldn't have told you what a principle was necessarily. I mean, they used the word around me, and I probably didn't understand what it meant.
He works at the school.
Yeah, no
Just
doubt.
kidding.
No doubt. And at the end of the day, I lived by the Army's values, and that it sounds very, very cliche, but for me, I try to have a real honest and an honest approach to it. So one of the biggest principles for me is honesty. Sometimes you don't like to hear things, and I'm very honest with people, and I let them. I think they can sense that it's coming from a genuine place for me, and that's what I try to instill in my players. I want them to be able to come to me, and if you're honestly hurt by a decision I've made and where you're at in the lineup, let's have an honest conversation about it, and that's how you're going to get through life and those things. So honesty is kind of one of my big principles with them, and just having a real solid character on and off the field. I shouldn't have to worry about what you're doing off the field. Your parents shouldn't have to worry about what you're doing when you're not home. So those are the things we talk about. And then consistency for me, it's just be consistent. If you're going to have bad days and you're going to have those things that get in the way of your production that day for whatever it is. But if your effort is consistent, and it can't be perfect all the time, but if it's consistent, well, then you can look at your teammates, and your teammates can look at you and go, that kid plays hard every time she's here, and she's locked in, and coach gives me his best or her best when she's here. So all those things kind of stack themselves up, those three for me. And, at the end of the day, it kind of gives us a good foundation for how we want to do things. So, but, there's so many things. But we get this much time with them every week, or, we get 6 or 8 weeks in the summer and 6 or 8 weeks in the fall. And then we've got to weave in those other months when they're in high school, this semi-connection, because we certainly don't try to get in the way of their high school. But we've got to try to keep that being consistent. That's the word I like to use, where it doesn't start and stop, because there is no switch for those things. They're either good or you're not. You're either a good person and you treat people right, or you don't. And there's no in between with that. So those are the things that I kind of hang my hat on. I think it's very similar with him. I think that's where people wondered how we were going to coexist. And it's ironic how many very similar things we approach things with. So,
Yeah. It's hard to argue character. And for me, if you're cheating off the field, you'll cheat on the field. You're going to cheat on your teammates. It's going to happen. But for me, my favorite, I'm a word guy. I love the word passion. I love the word intentional, but selfless. If you've been around me at all, I love the bunt. I think it's romantic. I think when you're giving up your life for the team, there's just something cool about it. But we coach 16 incredible athletes. At any given moment, 7 of them are on the bench. 7 superstars. Kids going to Baylor, kids going to Tennessee, kids going to Texas State, kids going to Texas. They're on the bench somewhere. And so your attitude had better be team-oriented. Because at the end of the day, success is the desired outcome. And if you can learn that in sport, if you can learn that in athletics, I promise you it's going to serve you well down the road. I teach for a living, and I just demand and expect people to know who the custodians are by name. Our custodian's Obet. His dog name is Patches, and he's a phenomenal guy. But check this out. Imagine where the world would be without him bringing to work every day the passion he has to make the building a better place. And if you can approach the game, there has to be a bench. It's got to be big picture. And if you can approach the game, we, not me, we get all that. Wow. How better would society be, our communities be, if we approached life like the sack bunt? I'm going to give up my desire, but check this out. Watch what the kid on deck does, because she's about to make you pay. And if we approach life to where, I said this the other day, if we would spend more time pushing people up, we wouldn't have time to pull people down. And it'd be great if we'd live that way. So you can't get past character. You just can't. But right behind that is selfless. Be about the big picture. Be about your teammates.